Well, the first school was at Peoples.
Yeah.
Okay, it was a log cabin. It was the first school.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you have to visualize that through the whole course of the North Allegheny School District in the 30s, they were sprinkled all through the place one-room schoolhouses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some of them are still in existence today. And the kids who went to the elementary schools at that time,
Mm-hmm.
now, the one-room schoolhouses naturally housed 1 through 8. Okay.
Okay.
In 1937, approximately around that, they closed all the one-room schoolhouses and started to build additions and added on, and Yomar Elementary was added on. Espy was built, Franklin was built. Bradford Woods retained a small school out there, and their kids were sent to other schools, okay, because they could only house so many kids in there. Now that continued on, and I started at Ingmar in 1937.
Okay.
So I approximately started right after all the one-room schoolhouses were closed. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we had about 16 kids in first grade, and it went 1 through 8th grade at that time. Now, as we completed our 8th grade of education, there was no high school to go to in the local area. North Allegheny did not have a high school.
Okay.
So the students from all the elementary schools went to a different high school.
Mm-hmm.
Some went to Perry, some went to Westview, some went to Mars, some went to Ambridge. And the interesting thing is, each municipality had its own tax base, paid its own teachers, and had no part of being joined it.
Yeah.
Now, McCandless was the biggest, okay,
Yeah.
and I would say the most wealthy.
Yeah.
Okay. They had a couple things going for them that the other municipalities didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
They had US 19, which was a very viable road going through.
Oh, okay.
They also had the Harmony line that ran from Pittsburgh all the way to Hammond City and then on up to Newcastle, then on up to Butler.
Okay.
That brought some migration, okay. So the little village of Inglemoor grew very rapidly up there. A lot of portion of McCandless Township, Marshall, and Bradford Woods. Marshall was a farm area. Franklin was a farm area. Bradford Woods was more or less of a summer retreat for a lot of people.
Okay.
The wealthy would come out from the city of Pittsburgh and they would ride that Harmony line out. And they would have some little summer cottages out in Bradford Woods. So, Ivan Hosick was the president of the McCandless School Board.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he had some foresight, okay, that why not build a high school out here? So they bought this property right here we're sitting on.
This campus, yeah. Okay.
It was a coal farm,
Uh-huh.
and they paid about $35,000 or $38,000. Okay, and they decided to build a high school. Now, the interesting thing is, Pine was still with us.
Pine,
Okay.
Pine Ridgeland?
It was just Pine
Just Pine.
at that time.
But
Richland
now
had
it's like-
their own. It's now Pine and Richland. But at that time, Pine Township had a few, one elementary school at Washington, which is now St. Boniface.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
They ought not to join because they felt that the high school was being built too far in here and would not service them over the years. And probably if you look at it in perspective, it was a wise move.
Mm-hmm.
Some people didn't like it. For those who lived in that Wexford cluster area, okay,
Yeah.
because they could throw a stone to North Allegheny.
Yeah, no, they're like.
And they wanted in Bradford Woods surrounded them.
Mhm.
Okay. And so some of them did not want to make the change, but they decided to. Now, North Allegheny at that time approached Westview to see if they wanted to join us. And Hyatt Township wanted to join us, but we turned them down. So in 1952, they broke ground. Okay. Actually, it started from 7th grade through 12th.
Okay.
And they closed all the elementary schools that were housing 1 through 8th grade. They didn't close them, but they closed it from 1 through 8, and it went 1 through 6.
Oh, okay.
And then no 7th graders come in here to the high school. Dr. Jonas Salk was the keynote speaker who founded the polio vaccine. I think that's his speech right there.
Jonas Salk, yeah. Okay.
Dr. Carson was the superintendent. This was the first principal. Varnix, I think, was his name. And she was the assistant superintendent. So actually then what they did was they were able to get all the school board members together, which would have been an interesting thing because they had about 22 total, to get them to agree on what they were going to do. We've got a lot of conservative people in Marshall and Bradford Woods, okay, and in Franklin. But they agreed to build a school in Hannibal. Well, after that, it just was leaps and bounds after that. And of course, there was a lot of factors in the 40s, after the war years, this place really moved. And that was one of the reasons why they motivated the idea of getting a high school day. So Brown and Vaughan built that housing plan.
Yeah.
And they said, my God, that's perfect. We've got a school right across the street.
Yeah.
And we have the property to build an elementary school. Okay?
Yeah.
No, we got another property to build a middle school. And of course, the 9th and 10th grade was up there before they built the new high school.
Okay.
Okay. And so it took a lot of foresight. They had some great ideas, and of course, they were very, very shrewd businessmen because they bought property. They bought the Shanot Farm out there on Shanot Road, and that's where the huge complex is of Marshall Middle and Marshall Elementary School. And that's where they built the fields and everything else.
Yeah.
So the people, it was sort of interesting, the people they bought the farms off of naturally lived there until they tore them down. There's still houses there. Now we have a teacher in here, Mrs. Joe Drzanovic's daughter, who was, she was a Shanot, and that was her mother. And her grandparents were the ones that owned the big farm. Okay?
Yeah.
So, and then the Divine Farm they bought, and that's now sold, and there's a building out there on 910. If you see the bank there, and there's an Eckerd, that was all farmland.
Yeah.
And of course the Sorgels were there with their farm, and they've retained that. The Shanots have retained their farm, which is on Westwood Run Road. And thank God that they've retained them 2 farms, because the farms that were on US 19 coming out have all our shopping centers. Okay? The Wexford Shopping Center was a farm, and beyond that was a Brooker Farm. And so all that property, they were on both sides of the road. So that all grew into a business. And of course, North Allegheny is a bit of a population, basically. Industry was not a big thing out here. Car dealers came, but industry was not big. Route 8 housed more industry because it had the railroad and it had the river that ran along there. Okay. So a lot of your coal mines were down there, and some of your mills and things like that. And the same way down with Ambridge and Aliquippa and Rochester. All of them were steel related, and mills and everything, and they had the railroad. So there was industry down there. So, but here, there were families that came from the Second World War. A lot of these people came out, young couples came out here with 1 child, no children. And they had a house built, and they moved in. The houses were comparatively priced. They weren't overly priced. So they were able to start their young life. And it was ideal for them because they could they could walk to school here because they had 7th, 8th, and 9th, and 11th, and 12th grade.
That's really nice, yeah. Now, decide to build Nash, the senior high school.
That was in the 70s. Yeah, now, in the mid-1960s, there was a steady growth of enrollment in the district, and there was a need for a new high school. Despite concerns from some that the site would be too remote, in 1972, the school purchased 72 acres from the Otto family up on 19.
Up on 19, that
The
campus.
new high school opened in 1972 and had a capacity of 1,200 students. Today, the school naturally supplies a wide range of athletic and scholastic, including swimming pool, and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
So that's when the high school was opened in
Was
70.
opened.
Now, there were some additions made here just recently.
Mhm.
A lot of people called the North Allegheny High School the University of North Allegheny. My name is Joseph Bullick. I'm the curator of history for the North Allegheny School District. I've been involved with collection and gathering history for the last 15 years. Rick Seebeck from Channel 13 visited the museum, and he spent 4 hours with me. And when he walked into the museum, he said, "This is a flea market of history, Joe." This clock was given to me by the Heinz Museum in honor of the fact that I established a history museum in a school district. And North Allegheny ought to be very proud of the History Museum because it's the only one of the only museums that was ever established in a school district. So we've given them an opportunity to see a little bit about what it was like back in the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s. Because North Allegheny is so unique, we have Marshall, Bradford Woods, Franklin, McCandless. They're all part of the growth of North Allegheny School District.
Joe Bullick has been curator for the North Allegheny Museum for the past 15 years. Currently housed out of McKnight Elementary, the NA Museum has absolutely everything to do with the history of North Allegheny. However, that everything is crammed into a very small spot.
And we can only accommodate 20 people comfortably in here, okay? We have all the yearbooks that go back to the first year that the school had a yearbook. 1956 and 57 was the first graduating class. This is loaded with tapes. The veterans are predominantly important here because we have uniforms and hats given to us by veterans who lived in McCandless and have lived in the area. This is a flea market of history where everything is laying all over the place, and that's because that's the kind of a collector I was.
But now, this flea market of history is being moved into a brand new building, one that will let everyone access its secrets.
The students at Beatty Tech will be starting to construct it during the course of the school year. We had to have some kind of an appearance, and we thought, gee, it'd be nice to have it look like a one-room schoolhouse. Because what we're doing is we're still establishing the importance of North Allegheny School District. So we want to sort of blend that because we're really evolutionary from one-room schoolhouses. Because if you visualize and use your imagination a little bit, where did these kids go to school years ago? Mm-hmm. They went to a one-room schoolhouse.
However, transitioning to this new schoolhouse will be anything but easy.
This filing cabinet is completely full related to North Allegheny School District. This all has to be separated and reorganized when we move. A lot of this stuff in the albums and all the things has to be reorganized. And we have to reorganize on what we're actually going to take down to put in the museum and what we're going to take down to be stored. We want to continue to leave the museum open for the public to see. Okay, so there'll still be groups come in, there'll still be maybe kids that'll come in, and people who want to do some research work. You can't enter down here. You have to enter up there, sign in, and everything else. So it makes it more difficult. And that's one of the reasons why it'll be so much better down at McCandless, because we won't have that security risk that we're having with this museum now. We'll be able to have like a day for the veterans. Mm-hmm. And we'll establish and put all the stuff out, and they'll come in the evening, or they'll come, we'll have an honor for the oldest veteran and everything else. We have old movie projectors, the old 8mm projectors that work. They'll be on display in the new museum and maybe even workable, so that we can show kids how movies was conducted years ago.
As you can see, Mr. Bullick has big plans for the new North Allegheny Museum and is driven by a fervent passion for knowledge about all things NA.
It'd be a different story, let's just say North Allegheny was just McCandless. But it isn't just McCandless. Your friends come from Bradford Woods, your friends come from Franklin, your friends come from Marshall, and you have friends that come from McCandless. North Allegheny has been an extremely strong school district for years. And I'm very proud to be the fact that I've been a part of it. It will be open every day for the public, and I think that's very important as my age creeps up on me, that the memorabilia and the stuff that we have will be passed along for people to look at. I've been very grateful for the North Allegheny School District, who have been so good to me in permitting me to start this thing 15 years ago and to grow to the size that it is now. And above all, we're very grateful to McCandless Township, who will be building this building